Covington and Usman part two. Interesting fight. Interesting fight. We saw adjustments were made. Colby Covington was speaking all that smack, about him really adjusting when it came to the striking. And you saw that. But I think early on, what you saw was a very tentative Colby Covington. He'd experienced the heat that came from Kamaru Usman in fight one, but he was quite he was measured. I mean, there's no other way of putting it, and overly cautious in that particular regard. But I think, the clear action that showed that this was going to be a different fight was when he shot for a takedown. Kamaru Usman anticipated it on time, scrambled, and was able to get on top. And Usman had, this is just my opinion, so many of these positions where he was able to, stuff Colby's takedowns and get in these front headlocks. And I kind of felt that, these were positions that he could have explored in terms of, top control dominance for long periods of time. But you didn't necessarily see that. But, digressing from the initial point, Colby Covington was intent to make this a different fight than the first fight was. And it led to really interesting pockets of action. Obviously, people are going to talk about, round two, where you saw a very dominant finish to the round by Kamaru Usman, where he caught, Colby coming in. And when Kamaru hits, there's no doubt it hurts. But look, I think it's interesting because Kamaru has gotten all this praise, let's put it there, and rightly so. He still is, in my opinion, the top pound for pound fighter out there with his new and evolved striking game. But if you really pare it back and look at it, would you call Kamaru Usman's striking fluid? Well, a lot of his, the basis of his striking is the jab. He extends off the back of that, and he's able to be very effective in his engagements there. But I think, there's not a lot of combinations off the back of it. And as the rounds kind of progressed, Colby Covington wasn't going away, and he really was mixing in, putting in the shots, as well as, peppering Kamaru with shots of his own that, ended up landing. They ended up landing. And I think for all the accolades that we give to Kamaru Usman, and look, this may seem like a little bit of a downer, but he was impressive in this fight. I think this was a really risky, may not be the word, fight for Usman, because he came off the Burns fight where he was so dominant. He came off Jorge, which, if we're being honest, I know the striking was, the KO was amazing, but I don't think we all agree that, Jorge deserved to have that second shot at the title. So to me, Colby Covington was going to represent a significant step up in competition that Usman had for a fair period of time. And it showed. It really did show. Colby wasn't getting out of there. He survived the second round. He was able to mix in the wrestling. And Kamaru, for as dominant as he looked, we saw not necessarily the kryptonite, but we saw exhaustion. We saw, Kamaru become a little bit tired, a little bit labored. And again, for all the amazing attributes that Kamaru has, he has a chin on him, and he can absolutely take it as well as dish it. And, when those scrambles were coming and when some of the, engagements and exchanges, rather, from Kamaru and Colby looked very sloppy, Kamaru was still coming out on top. He was still coming out on top. And it really took Colby. Colby pushed him. Colby definitely pushed him in this fight in a very different way than the first fight. I think that from an entertainment perspective, the first fight was obviously amazing, purely because, Kamaru hadn't leveled up to the degree that he has now. But you saw Colby fight with a lot more reckless abandon, and he was tagging him there. And to a degree, this was happening here, but it was a lot more measured. It was a lot more thoughtful. But even with those elements there, you could see that Colby Covington, or this version of Colby Covington, was definitely no match for Kamaru Usman. And, he was able to get away with, what's a impressive victory at the end of the day. And, at the end of all that tension, end of all of that, you're able to see Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington exchange a couple of words. And there's definitely mutual respect there. But, it's an interesting fight. you can't take away what Kamaru is doing in this division and in the UFC as a whole. He is an absolutely dominant champion. What next for Usman? Well, Leon Edwards, right? If he clears that video game path that is Jorge Masvidal, it has to be Leon Edwards. But it's interesting. The evolution of Kamaru, the ascent of Kamaru has been swift. This definitely was a tough fight. I think we've closed this book almost indefinitely. I don't necessarily want to see another fight with Colby Covington. I don't think a lot of people do. Um, and yeah, Kamaru will definitely grow into be a more complete mixed martial artist, with more challenges to come. As for Colby Covington, there's definitely still a place in the UFC for Colby Covington. In this weight division, look, there's a fun fight between Jorge Masvidal, and there's definitely a lot of fights there. But one seems to think that he's time for potentially being a UFC champion if he wishes to remain in this particular weight class is over. It's all but over for Colby in this weight class, at least while Kamaru is ruling the roost. What did you think of the reaction, guys? Is Kamaru the pound for pound champion? What do you think about the fight? Leave some comments below. Subscribe to the channel and catch you soon.